Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to a new series that will be dedicated to having conversations with new Muslims about being a new Muslim. This is a very important topic that really unfortunately lacks resources. Many of us, when we embrace Islam, Allah guides us to the truth, we find ourselves being in a situation where we are very confused. We might not know where to turn. We feel like we're being pulled in different directions. So I just wanted to dedicate a series to discussing some of the most common questions and issues that new Muslims typically face. Alhamdulillah, I myself was guided to Islam over 10 years ago. So I just want to share some of my experiences, and I ask that Allah guide me to speak about that which is correct and beneficial. And this isn't meant to be very intense and academic. It's not meant to be something that is very rigorous and difficult and complicated, but rather these are just going to be very easy to follow conversational episodes. So this being the first episode, I just wanted to say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guiding somebody to Islam, this is the greatest blessing a human being can be gifted. Guidance, especially when we know what it feels like to be misguided. We know what it is like to live in darkness. And then once you are presented with the light, with the truth, and you see it, this is something that can be so powerful, really just beyond words, beyond explanation. And that being the case, sometimes when we are new to Islam, we have zeal and enthusiasm that has to be channeled properly, because this enthusiasm can be a double-edged sword. You can use it for good, but it can also be used for bad. So that is what we want to talk about during this first episode. Not everybody has that enthusiasm. Some people, they might embrace Islam, see it's the truth, but it takes them a long time to really practice and get enthusiastic about their deen. However, it is also very common that a new Muslim has so much zeal and excitement that they just can't even contain it. So that's sort of what we want to focus on today, is somebody who might be feeling that, because I know for me, that's how I felt. Okay, maybe it took a couple of months of research, but once I really embraced Islam fully, I started praying 5 times a day, I really was very zealous. So we want to talk about what should we do with that enthusiasm. So I just have a few points of advice, and Allah surely knows best, but this is just based on my experience. I want you to learn from some of my mistakes, and I also want to emphasize that it is actually quite common amongst those who Allah does guide to have very similar experiences about their enthusiasm, about things that happen to them, about certain phases they might go through. So you're really not alone. Although you might feel like you're alone, you might feel like this is something that's very strange and rare. And in a way it is, but at the same time, in a way it's not, because there are many people that you will come across if you go out and you interact with the Muslims and you meet those who embrace Islam. So many of us have experienced the same sorts of things. So many of us have the same similar types of stories. Although the details might vary, there are a lot of commonalities. So that being the case, hopefully you can learn from some of our mistakes. So the first thing I just wanted to mention is that when you have this zeal and enthusiasm, one of the best things that you can do is use that, channel that enthusiasm toward education, towards seeking knowledge. For example, one of the best things that you can do as a Muslim is to focus on learning the Arabic language. So if you're very excited and you want to do something to get closer to your Lord, to show Him that you appreciate the fact that He guided you after you were not guided, then one of the best things you can start with is starting to learn the Arabic language. Learn how to read letter by letter, because his book is in the Arabic language. His Prophet ﷺ spoke the Arabic language, and Allah preserved the Quran and the tradition of his Messenger ﷺ in the Arabic language. So that is one thing that takes a lot of time and patience, focus and energy. And if you can use that focus and energy and zeal as a new Muslim and use that to learn Arabic, that is one of the greatest possible things that you can do. And that will help you so much throughout the rest of your life. Another thing that you can do is to try to really get in the habit of praying your 5 daily prayers on time. This is something that takes quite a while to get used to. I remember when I first embraced Islam, I realized, wow, for the rest of my life, I have to wake up early in the morning and pray Fajr. There is no just sleeping in from now on and, going to bed at midnight and then waking up at 10 a.m. No, we have to, as Muslims, we have to wake up, we have to pray Fajr. We also have to pray the rest of our daily prayers. So it takes some time for a new Muslim to do these things. And in fact, unfortunately, it's something that even born Muslims and people coming from Muslim countries, sometimes this is something that they struggle with. So this is another good use of your energy and your enthusiasm, is trying to get into the habit of making sure that you are praying your 5 daily prayers on time. And it also takes a while to understand how to pray. What are the proper movements to do? What should we say? What should we recite in Arabic, and what does it mean in English? So this is another thing that is going to take time, energy, and focus. And that's one of the best ways to use this enthusiasm. Another great thing to do is to get into the habit of making dua, of asking Allah for whatever it is that you need, trying to remember Him throughout the day. Always, whatever's going on in your life, whatever you want, ask your Lord. Understand that He wants you to make dua. The Prophet ﷺ, he taught us that dua, that supplicating to Allah, is the worship. This is of the greatest acts of worship, is just asking Allah. So if you can try to start thinking in a manner that has you remembering Allah, knowing that He is in control of all things and that He wants you to ask Him for things. It's not that He's like a human being where if you ask Him, He's going to feel burdened or it's going to be difficult. No, Allah is above and beyond His creation. He has absolutely no deficiencies. He is the most perfect in every single way. So He wants you to ask of Him. Another thing that you can do is fast. You can do voluntary fasts. This is something that can bring you closer to your Lord, and it is something that you can be greatly rewarded for in the hereafter. And it can also help you, it can help control some of that energy, because as you're fasting, you might not have that same, excitement and energy. Instead you will be giving up your food, your drink, and certain other things for your Lord. And this is a way to get closer to Him. If you have all of that energy, what you want to do is you want to use it to run toward your Lord. So these are just different things that you can focus on. And not only should we focus on doing that which Allah commanded, hoping for His reward, but we should also try to avoid what Allah prohibited, fearing His punishment. So also as a new Muslim, there are things that you can focus on leaving, certain things that are haram. So for example, there might be drinking, drugs, certain relationships or certain situations you might find yourself in it's not good. It's not pleasing to Allah. So another aspect is trying to give up some of these things, and it might take time, but that's another thing that you can focus on. And I guess the last thing that I want to mention, I can keep going on and on, but another thing is trying to be good to your parents. using that energy to do good things for your family, for your siblings, for your relatives, especially as a new Muslim, when you might come from a Muslim family, but now you're practicing. Or you might come from a non-Muslim background and now you embraced Islam. Either way, you might have family members looking at you, wondering with concern if this is going to be a bad change that you're going through. They might worry about you. So a good way to sort of overcome those issues and also to please Allah, because this is also part of Islam, is trying to really strive in being good to your parents, being good to your siblings, being good to your relatives. And many of us, we might not have had the best relationship before Islam with our families. For example, I myself, I was so busy chasing the dunya. I had more of a bond with my friends. And as a result, my relationship with my parents, with my family, with my relatives suffered tremendously. But then once I became Muslim, it became an opportunity and an encouragement to try to reconnect with my parents, with my relatives, to call them, to try to have lunch with them, just get to know them, just to let them know that you are part of their family and that you are a good person, and that this change that you're going through, it's positive and it's because of Islam. So this is something that can also be a very beneficial use of this newfound enthusiasm that you might be feeling. And the last thing I just want to close with is it's very important to avoid any sort of extreme fringe groups, any extreme actions, because as we mentioned, this zeal can be a double-edged sword. It is something that you can use for good by doing these things that I mentioned, but it's also something that other people might try to prey upon. They might try to use that zeal for things that are actually contrary to Islam. You might actually have non-Muslims who are undercover trying to set up certain operations just to get you in trouble. Now, of course, you don't want to be overly paranoid, but the point is that you don't want to allow anybody to push you in a direction to do things that are extreme, that are actually against Islam, but you get fooled by it because you have that zeal, but you don't have the knowledge. You don't have the wisdom. And you might make a mistake that, the price is so heavy that you'll pay for it for the rest of your life. You could go to jail for the rest of your life. You could even die. So avoid all of that. There's no reason for you to be involved in any sort of extremism. There is no reason for you to rush and be hasty in trying to do extreme things. There's no reason for you to do that. And if you find anyone pushing you in that direction, then you should remember that there are people who want to use you, not for good, but for evil. So all you have to do is just stick to these things that I mentioned, inshallah. Seek knowledge. Try to get used to praying 5 times a day, making dua, fasting, connecting with your parents and relatives, trying to show them that you have good character due to Islam and what it teaches. And of course, we always want to understand that our intention has to be for Allah. Everything that we do, from praying to seeking knowledge to fasting to being good to our parents and our relatives, at the end of the day, it's all for Allah. It's all for Allah. That is something we also have to get into the habit of trying to remember is our intention. Why are we doing these things? It's because Allah created us. Allah guided us to Islam. He guided us to the truth. And a day will come where we will die, we will be resurrected, and we will be judged according to how we lived our lives. And if we want our good deeds to be accepted, a condition of that is that we do these good deeds for the sake of Allah alone. So that does it for this first episode. May Allah guide all of us to what's best. If you know any new Muslims who you think might benefit from this series, please share the video. Until next time, Jazakumullahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.